left at this point. I missed 2 days of uploading the videos, but I'm sorry. I can't do anything about it. Let's prove right now. Let's do the work. Where I was, I don't know. Yep, found it. The productive equation is not a non-linear one. In other words, this accounts for why I am a bad component. I think I read it, right? No, I did not, yes. People who wish to interfere with my concentration are... Yeah, I have read it. Shit. The Bill Mode Philosophy of Deep Work and Scheduling. This book opened with a story about the revolutionary psychologist and thinker Carl Jung in the 1920s, at the same time that Jung was attempting to break away from the strictures of his mentor Sigmund Freud. He began to regularly retreat to a rusty stone house he built in the wood outside the small town Bollingen. When there, Jung would lock himself every morning into a minimally appointed room to write without interruption. He would like then to meditate and walk in the woods to clarify his thinking in preparation for the next writing day. These efforts, I argued, were aimed at increasing the intensity of Jung's deep work to a level that he would allow him to succeed in an intellectual combat with Freud and his many supporters. In recalling this story, I want to emphasize something important. Jung did not deploy a monastic approach to deep work. Donald Knuth and Neil Stephenson was our examples from earlier attempted to completely eliminate distraction and shallowness from the professional life. Jung, by contrast, sought this elimination only during the periods he spent at the retreats. The rest of Jung's life was spent in Zurich, where his life was anything but monastery. He ran a busy clinic practice that often had him seeing patients until late night. He had an active participant in Zurich coffee house culture, and he gave and attended many lectures in the city's respected universities. Einstein received his doctorate from one university in Zurich and later taught at another. He also, interestingly enough, knew Jung, and the two shared several dinners to discuss the key idea of Einstein's special relativity. Jung's life in Zurich, in other words, is similar in many ways to the modern archetype of hyper-connected digital knowledge workers. Replace Zurich with San Francisco and write letter with tweet, and we could be discussing some hotshot tech CEO. Jung approach is what I call is a bimodal philosophy of deep work. This philosophy asks that you decide your time, dedicating some clearly defined stretches to deep pursuits and leaving the rest open to anything else. During the deep time, the bimodal worker will act monastically, seeking intense and uninterrupted concentration. During the shallow time, such focus is not prioritized. This division of time between deep and open can be happening on multiple scales. For example, on the scale of a week, you might dissecate a 4-day work and to depth and rest to open rest time. Similarly, on the scale of a year, you might dedicate one season to contain most of your deep stretch, as many academies do over summer or while on sabbatical. The bimodal philosophy believes that the deep work can be produced extreme productivity, but only if the subject dedicates enough time to such endeavors to reach the maximum cognitive intensity, the state in which the what real breakthroughs occurs. This is why the minimum unit of time for deep work in this philosophy tends to be at least one full day. To put aside a few hours in morning, for example, is too short to count as a deep work stretch for an adherent of this approach. At the same time, the bimodal philosophy is typically deployed by the people who cannot succeed in the absence of sustained commitments or to non-deep pursuits. Young, for example, needed his clinical practice to pay the bills, and the Zurich coffee shop screen to stimulate his thinking, and the approach shifting between the two modes provides a way to serve both needs well. To provide a more modern example of bimodal philosophy in action, we can once again consider Adam Grant, the Wharton Business School philosopher whose thoughtfulness about his work habits was introduced in part 1. As you might recall, the Grant's schedule during his rapid rise through the professorship rank at the Wharton provides in a nice bimodal case study. On the scale of academic year, he stuck his course into one semester so that he could focus the other on deep work and take it to a period of 2 or 4 days to become completely monastery. He would shut his door to put an out of office autoresponder on his coffee email and the work on his research without interruption outside of deep sessions. Grant remained famously open and accessible. In some sense, he had to be. His 2013 bestseller, Give or Take, promotes the practice of giving of your time attention without expectation of something in return as a key strategy in professional advancement. Those who deploy the bimodal philosophy of deep work admires the productivity of the monastery, but they also respect the value they receive from the shallow behavior in their working life. Perhaps the biggest obstacle to implementing this philosophy in that is even short periods of deep work requires a flexibility that many fears they lack in their current position. If even an hour away from your inbox makes you uncomfortable, then certainly the idea of disappearing for a day or more at a time will seem impossible. But I suspect the bimodal working is compatible with more types of jobs than you might guess. Earlier, for example, I described a study Harvard Business School lays Prolo. In this study, a group of management consultants were asked to disconnect from a full day's each work week. The consultants were afraid the client would rebel. It turns out the client did not care, as Young and Grant Perlow's subject discovered that people will usually respect your right to become accessible if these prayers are well defined and well advertised, and outside this stretch you are once again easy to find. Let me see how much time. 9, yeah. I think I have done my reading today. I don't know. I guess that's about it. I will see you tomorrow. Good night.